Welcome all, and all are welcome. My name is Marianne, and today I am going to show you the setup of my reading journal. Now, I am very aware that this is a very late video because this is not me setting up my 2026 reading journal. This is the video of me setting up my 2025 Part 2 reading journal. So basically, in 2025, I got through to June in my reading journal and was running out of space. So I started a new one in July. So the journal I'm setting up in this video is going to be July to December, which again is a very late time to post this video. But I thought, you know what, better late than never. And maybe you can get some ideas for your journal that you're setting up now for the next year, or maybe you just want to journal along with me. In which case, grab your pens and let's get going. I had a good time setting this up, and I wanted to make sure that I had a really pretty cover page. For some reason, if my cover page is really beautiful, every single time I open my journal, it just brings me a lot more joy. And so I wanted to do a painting with gouache. I'm not quite as familiar with gouache as I am with watercolor, but I thought that the gouache would translate well because I wanted this to feel really sturdy. This is going to be a stone castle, basically, with a window overlooking a landscape, and I wanted the stones to feel sturdy, and I wanted them to be very present. So basically, I just mixed together white and black gouache and get different shades of gray so that I can start working on my cover page. If you'll notice, I do have my pencil drawing here set up, and I have it shown so that the pencil sketch is in 3 quadrants. There's the outermost quadrant, a middle one, and then the innermost quadrant, which is the thing I'm painting right now. I did this because I wanted to make sure to have a gradient of grays, lightest to darkest, so that it would give additional depth and dimension to the painting. So right now, I'm just currently mixing together grays to try and get the right shade for what I'm making. I'm also doing the windowsill. Like I said, I am not greatly proficient with gouache, but the painting that I'm making right now is one that is simple enough that I think even with my limited skills, I can still make it look like something I'd like. Also, I would like to apologize for any background noise you hear. I have a bunch of cats, and also I'm doing this on my laptop, and you can probably hear my laptop running in the background. It is an old brick. It was a hand-me-down. We're working with what we got here. So basically, I was really happy with my reading journal setup that I had for the first half of 2025. But I ended up reading a lot more books than I expected to read, and I just ran out of room. I set up that journal for a full year, and I just, for some reason, my reading habits just really boomed, and I read a lot more, and I'm continuing to read a lot more. So I set up this journal for 6 months, and I just thought, we'll see how it goes. And although we're not quite at the end of the year, it is pretty well filled up, and I'm going to be able to have a new reading journal for 2026 as well, starting in a whole fresh journal. So that's really great. I'm really happy about that. If you were curious, the journal that I'm working on right now is from Tifosi. It's just a green with gold foil on the front, and I really like their paper quality. It is also 160 GSM, just like my other journals that I use for bullet journaling and things like that. You can also get 160 GSM paper from Archer and Olive, from Notebook Therapy, and from a lot of other like smaller brands. I know Takti does really good paper. So if you are wondering about shopping around, definitely do so. And most YouTubers that you watch will have like coupon codes and promo codes and things like that. So you can also get a bit of a discount on that. So right now I'm just going back in with the even darker shade of gray for the innermost quadrant because I felt like the contrast wasn't enough. But you can start to see a little bit what I mean here in that I wanted the outermost part to be lighter and the innermost part to be darker, just to give the grays some depth, so it wasn't just one color of gray throughout the entire painting. I'm also building it up more in some spots and leaving it a little more blank in other spots so that it gives additional like texture to it, because I mean, stones aren't just flat bits of color, they've got texture. But yeah, this whole thing I just do with gouache. At the very end of this painting, you will see I do add in just one little part with pen, but it's really for one tiny little part, which you'll see at the end, and I'll point it out. I also want to say that, of course, this footage that you're watching is sped up. Most of the footage that you will see in this video today will be sped up. And that is because I worked on this journal over a course of several days. And also, when I got all the raw footage together, it was like something like 13 hours. So, unfortunately, I'm so sorry to say, this is going to have to be a 2-part video. This is going to be part 1 setting up, and then I will release the part 2 soon so that you can see the rest of it. I'm sorry, I hate a 2-part video, but there is no way. I just didn't feel like it was going to be enjoyable for anyone if I released, a 5-hour long video. It's not that long, but you know what I mean. So we're working on that. I'm currently working on editing the second half. You'll see here, I changed my mind about the color of this sky in the landscape part that I'm putting in now. I had mixed up a kind of a grayish blue because I wanted it to blend nicely with the rest of the painting, but it was pulling way too gray. So I went in over it with a lighter colored blue. And I'll be honest with you, in this footage, it looks more gray than it does in person. The sky in real life on this painting looks a lot more blue and cheerful than it does look rather bleak in this one. But it is actually quite brighter in real life, especially in the sun. So right now I'm just making 3 green, oblongs, with just 3 green shapes. I don't know what they are. They could be the tops of trees. They could be hills. They could be bushes. Whatever your heart desires, I suppose. But now I'm working on the branch. So you can see I left a little bit of white space in amongst all of these stones for me to know where to place the branch here. And I'm just going in with like a kind of dark brown shade so that I can start making branches. And I also don't necessarily only stick to the places where I left the white space. I do add in things wherever I think a little bit more would be nice. A lot of it's unplanned as to where I'm going to put it. I just wanted it to go wherever it looked a little more natural. And now I'm going in with my first layer of leaves. Each leaf, I do 2 layers of color. Once one layer is dried, I go in with another layer, and then I do 2 different colors. Just to, again, get a little more detail, a little bit more texture and dimension to the painting. I will say it again, I'm not proficient at gouache. I'm kind of new to the whole painting thing anyway. So the ending painting isn't something that's going to blow your mind. I look at it and I really love it, but I also can see spots where it can have improvement, or I would have changed something. For instance, I do think that the branches or vine or whatever this is, I do think it's a little bare in terms of leaves. I put the leaves very scattered through the branches, but it doesn't have any volume to it. So there are only leaves growing right along the edges of the branch, like I'm doing here, and nothing going out any further. So I think if I were to do it again, I would try to make sure that I have a lot more leaves and that they have more volume to them. But that being said, I'm not at all unhappy with the way it turned out. I'm, comfortable and familiar with my skill level, and I think I did the best I could, and I'm really happy with it. My reading journal is something I do as a hobby and something I do for joy, so I'm not going to turn it into an opportunity to berate myself or anything like that. I'm just going to enjoy it while I have it, and if it's not perfect, that's okay, because nothing ever is. So I'm going in right now with my second layer of green gouache, just to make the leaves more opaque here. And then here in just a little bit, you'll see me mixing up a different shade of green. It's a little bit lighter and more olive toned for the second shade of green, because I felt like it could use a little more lightness in the colors. And right now it's looking rather dark. I'm going in with my black gouache and a tiny little brush pen, and I am adding the title of my reading journal here. Now, I have never really lettered with paint and a brush before, so this was a really interesting thing to do. I just really put 2025 reading journal, and then underneath that I put book 2, but instead of writing 2, I put book II, like Roman numerals, but I did them lowercase i's. I don't know, I just thought that I liked the aesthetic of it written like that. This is where I'm putting the title, is just like in the window that I had drawn, and then there I am with my Sakura Pigma Micron, and I just put in the little subheading that I told you about. So we're leaving that, and we're going over to my reading log. I am going in first thing. You can see I probably you can see that I have it sketched out in pencil here. The very first thing, I'm going in with my Tombow dual brush pen, and I'm doing second line highlights because I want to make sure that I can keep track of what line I'm writing on a little bit easier, which is a really handy thing to have whenever you're keeping lists, which is what this is for. I wanted them also to look like big bookcases. I thought that would be fun. And so I have them sketched out in pencil here, and I'll just go back over them with paint. I'm using gouache again. I'm just using a basic brown color to paint out the outside of the bookcase. I wanted it to look a little bit academia, a little bit old-fashioned, but I'm not going to be filling the bookcase with book spines like I have done before. I've seen a lot of people do that in their reading journal. I really like the look of a reading log that is books on spines. Unfortunately, I don't like the actual practice of it. So filling out the book titles, you have to tilt your hand at a certain angle, and you have to use the right size pen, and you can't put a lot of information in there. And I just decided that while it looked really nice, it wasn't what I wanted to do. So this year I'm just trying for the first time keeping a reading log instead of doing a bookcase layout, and I'm really liking it so far from having used it. I am still working in my gouache, but I go in later and I also put divider lines down through the middle where I can put different sections for my reading log. I put number for the number of the book that I'd read, the dates for the date where I started and finished the book, title and author for the book that I read, and then rating at the end for my number rating system. Another thing I will say is that most people rate out of 5 stars because that's what works best for them. I can't tell you why, but for some reason my brain works best rating from 10 stars. So I always rate my books out of 10 stars. Again, I have no idea why. It just makes more sense in my funny little brain like that. So I'll work with it. It's not a big deal. But basically, that's why you'll probably see throughout I have different things set up for it to be able to be rated out of 10 stars instead of out of 5 stars. In fact, later I even do a rating system page out of 10 stars, which I think is really handy. For the most part, I just rate on vibes. I just think, oh, I liked this book about an 8 or something like that. But occasionally, if I'm like, I can't tell if I want it to be an 8 or a 7 or something like that, then I will go back to my rating system page, and I'll look at that a little better to help me decide. If I only ever use it if I can't decide how I'd like to rate a book. So that's going to be the first layer done on my first bookcase. I'm going to go ahead and let that paint dry, and then I'm going in and painting the bookcase on the next page because I wanted to have 2 pages for reading log. Because like I said, I've been reading more lately, but also I just don't know how much I'm going to be reading at this point, so I'm just making plenty of room. And, I've really gotten a lot of use out of this reading log, in fact, and I think I made probably almost just the right amount of room for it, too. Which is cool because, like I said, I mean, by the end of last year, I thought, well, this will work out great. I can just fit it all in one journal, and now I'm starting this second journal because I've been reading so much more than expected. I think my highest read month so far is August. My highest read month so far is August, in which I read 18 books, which for me is quite a lot. That is quite a lot. When I started this year in January, I read 3 books that month. So, and to be fair, one of them was a classic novel, which does take me longer to read, but it's really interesting to me how I have been reading a lot more, because when I started reading more recently, I used to read a lot as a kid, and then I kind of went through a spell where I didn't read anymore, and now I'm back to reading again. And when I first started reading again, I had a lot of opportunity to do so because my job at work was to sit and monitor things, so I would just read while I was at work. I have since changed jobs, and I thought that I would not have as much opportunity to read, so I'd probably read less because I wouldn't be able to read at work. And of course, I can't read at work now with the job I have, but somehow I've still managed to be reading more, which I think I've just been more and more having finding joy in reading. And anyway, the whys of it don't matter so much as that I just have been really enjoying it. Like I said, I have been working on building this bookcase out of paint here. I am going to add more details and a couple little parts where I need to make some corrections. But overall, I think you get the general idea of the bookcases here. And then again, that double line highlight is really helpful for making lists. So here I am going in with my brown Tombow dual brush pen. I grabbed this Tombow because I felt like it matched nicely with the color of the bookcase that I had chosen for the paint. And so I am going in with my Tombow now to make different sections so that I can put my headers in each section as well. I'm also putting a little decoration over the top of the header area so that it looks a little bit like something sitting on the alcove of the bookcase. I'm using a brown Sakura Pigma Micron actually for this one in 003. I love the Sakura Pigma Microns, and I do have a brown one too, which is so handy. And then I'm going in with a different shade of Tombows to color in the little things that I've drawn. I made a tiny little globe on the left, and then on the right I put a picture frame. I didn't know what to put in the frame, so I just put a little heart. So now I'm going in with my brown Tombow Fudenosuke to color in the little globe. We're flipping over now to my TBR page. My idea for this page is that although I don't love writing in book spines, if the books are laid horizontally and they're larger than I had drawn them before, I probably could use them for my TBR page. I am making 3 stacks of books, and I'm going to separate them into books that are romance genre and books that are not romance genre, they're other genres. Because sometimes I'm in the mood to read a romance, and then sometimes I'm in the mood to just read something else without romance in it, was my basic thought on that. So I'm just using my Sharpie black felt tip pen in Fine. This is like my holy grail pen. This is the pen that I swear by. I will be using it through the entire setup of this journal. So if at any point you see me using this pen, it's the Sharpie one, and I really love my Sharpie pen. I gave myself a lot of room on my TBR stacks here because I knew that I have a lot of books on my TBR. I think for my next journal, I'm going to try to edit my TBR down a little bit, but I'm not super worried about getting through my TBR. It's more just something I have just in case. This is also a new technique I'm trying. I got some stencils and some Distress Oxide ink off of Amazon, I think, and I'm using actually an old makeup brush to apply it. And I just wanted it to look a little bit like cobblestones or stones in a wall or something like that. So I used some washi tape to place down the stencil, and then I just stenciled it down there. And I think it turned out really nicely, especially considering I'd never done that before, you know. I'm now using my letter stamps and just a black stamp pad to put the genre headers underneath each stack of books. I have some larger letter stamps that I use to put TBR, and then I'm just going to fill up the rest of this space with stickers of candles. I think candle stickers seemed like a really good vibe for this and fit kind of with the castle theme that I'm going for overall. Wanted it to look like a medieval castle overall for the theme of this book, so I think it turned out pretty well. Now I'm going to be entering my rating system page. This one is pretty basic. I just did a header and then listed my ratings. But like I said, it is handy to turn back to at times whenever I'm not quite sure and I need help making a decision. I'm just going to go ahead and write everything out. I had it all written out in pencil beforehand so that I knew what I wanted to write for each one. I had to think about how I wanted to rate each book. But I'll be honest with you, like I said before, it's really based on vibes. This is a rating system that I use that I would hardly call a system. It's more just like, oh, I loved it, or I didn't like it so much, or it felt special, things like that. I really just kind of rate it based on how I feel about it at the time of finishing the book, because I make my book spreads immediately after finishing the book. I know that some people like to sit with the book for a couple of days and gather their thoughts on it, but not only do I have a very poor memory, but I'm also an impatient person, so I really love using my book journal, and I just, as soon as I finish the book, I like to sit down and write about it. I'm going in with just a couple of stickers here to fill in that bottom area, we're flipping over to my DNF graveyard. So for my DNF graveyard, I'm doing some lettering with my Sakura Pigma Micron pen in 005 and 01. And I'm doing kind of a, I don't know what to call it, like a fancy copperplate Gothic style lettering because I wanted it to look a little bit like a graveyard sign. You can see the back of my head plenty of times in this because I had to get up really close sometimes for the details of the lettering. But overall, I'm happy with how it turned out. I just wanted it to look like an arched sign with some fancy lettering in it that says DNF Graveyard on it. And that way it would kind of give it that old world Gothic feel of like a graveyard. I've really been liking, this is my second time putting in a DNF Graveyard, and I really like the format of just putting it all here so that I can still mark down when I read a book. But I decide not to finish it. I still have a place where I could put the details about why I didn't finish it, when I read it, how far I got in the book, things like that. So I'm just going in now with my pen and I am drawing out the border for the sign. And then I will be going in also with a Tombow black dual brush pen to thicken up the frame. But I've tried to be as detailed as I can with this without making it too fussy, because after a certain point you get lost in the details and you feel like you're working on something for forever, unfortunately, or at least I do. Like I said before, I'm a bit of an impatient person, so I'm just drawing out the outline of the frame here and then I'll color it in. I don't have a lot to say right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and let the music play. So now I'm going in with that stencil again and just putting in the 2 shades of gray. I got 2 different shades of Distress Oxide ink in gray. And I am just filling up this little area so that whenever I put in my DNF graveyard, I got stickers for it. So whenever I put in my graveyard stickers, it will be able to have a little more on the page than just the white background. I also got these stickers from the Stickii Club subscription box, and I'm just putting them around to give it a little bit more of a graveyard kind of vibe. Now I'm going to be starting my upcoming releases log. I am drawing this to look a little bit like a library card from back when they did the card catalog. They would have a spot for the author and the title, and then they would have a spot underneath that for the date you checked the book out and the name of the person who checked it out, things like that. So I always liked the aesthetic of those cards, so I'm just drawing one that's a little bit larger. I mean, this is larger than the normal cards were, but I'm drawing one to be able to fill it out. But I'm just adjusting the little headers a little bit. So these top 2 spots, instead of putting author and title there, I'm just going to put upcoming releases up there. And then I'm also making a spot underneath for date. That is the date that the book is released. Whether or not I pre-ordered the book, I'll place with a check mark. The book title and author. And then I also have a little thing I added in afterward where if the book is on Kindle Unlimited and so I don't need to pre-order it because I'm subscribed to Kindle Unlimited, I can just put KU in the spot instead of pre-ordered. But basically it's a pretty simple setup. I do also go in, after I draw out the lines, I go in with my Tombow brush pen to do second line highlights on this as well, because I want to make sure that, again, in a list keeping format, it's pretty easy. So I'm going in right now with my Sakura Pigma Micron in 005 just to write out the headers that I was telling you about earlier, so that I can make sure that I know which section to write each thing in. I made a little mistake here, but that's where I pull out my trusty handy dandy whiteout runner. I don't like to use regular whiteout because it always ends up really bumpy and it's hard to write over again. But I have a whiteout tape runner basically where it just lays down a very thin flat layer of whiteout over a certain section. It's very easy to be precise with this, and it makes it a lot easier to write over the section that I just covered up. So I really prefer to do that. So now that my headers are made, I'm going in with a little bit of decoration. I have this washi tape that I got from Cora Crafts on Etsy, and I think it's beautiful and perfect for this theme. My only complaint is that you have to be really careful when unrolling it from the washi tape roll, because it will break, because it's kind of more finely cut, and also the cuts go down pretty far low in some of the areas. But honestly, it's worth it. It's not super fiddly, and it's worth it for the effect, because it's just a beautiful washi tape. I'm using my Paperaica Zig Cocoa Iro letter pen, the black brush pen, to head this section here. I'm just putting upcoming releases. But I am very slow on lettering because I don't think I'm super confident with my lettering. There's definitely ways I'd like to improve. So I try to go as slow as possible, but unfortunately, sometimes I get a little impatient. But for the most part, I think it turned out looking all right. But this footage of me doing the lettering is also sped up by, I think, 300%, just because, like I said, it can take a long time to do lettering, and I didn't want you to have to sit through all of that with me. So after I do the lettering, I get to pull out the stickers. I have a very large sticker collection, and I really love using stickers. So I had a lot, especially from my Stickii Club subscription, with these beautiful old-looking fantasy castles on them. And then at the very end, I am going to add a couple of stickers from the Creeping Moon shop on Etsy. I really love their stickers. They're great quality. So that page is done, and now we get to flip over to my next spread. This is going to be my first time trying a 10-star spread. So I'm making it pretty basic in a pretty open area, but basically I just want to be able to put down the book covers of any book that I rate 10 stars. I am a little bit picky about what I rate 10 stars, not crazy picky, but I am pretty selective about it, so I don't think I'll need all of this space, but better safe than sorry, I guess. So I placed down several stickers. The window stickers are from Leelajournals. The castle stickers are from Mushieworks. And then the number stickers are from Hobby Lobby. I'm going back in with my Cocoa Iro Paperaica Zig brush pen to write out the word stars so that completes the header. And then afterward, I'm going to add a couple more stickers. A few more from Mushieworks, in fact. And then I'm going in with my black Sharpie felt tip pen and fine to add a little bit of a border around the page, because I just felt like it needed just a little bit of something more there. Okay, now I'm working on my book bingo spread. I enjoy a book bingo a lot. I get most bingos throughout using these. I don't think I've ever completely done a blackout board bingo though. Like, I don't think I've ever successfully blacked out the board, but that's okay. I don't really work super hard on meeting my book bingo prompts. It's more after I read the book, I'll go through whatever hasn't been filled out and see if there's anything there that will meet the goal with the book that I just read. So the fact that I still get several bingos is great, and I'm happy with the way I do it. I'm using several different Tombow dual brush pens to letter the header and also add a couple of details to the boxes, and then I'm going in with my Sharpie pen and filling in all of the bingo squares. I really relate to the MC, or main character, fell for the villain, a classic, main character is BIPOC, cannot believe the ending, book made into a movie or TV show, a reread, second in a series, recommended book, read in one day, 400 plus pages, went in blind. My middle square is new releases, physical book, found family, second chance DNF, nonfiction, no romance, bestseller, finish a series, picked for the cover, written by 2 authors, novella or short story, nearly DNF'd, and out of my comfort zone as my bingo squares. I'm adding little finishing touches there. I went ahead and highlighted the middle square with my black Tombow just so it had a little bit of extra emphasis on that. And then I am putting in color in the background and then adding the letters for the word bingo into the squares above the individual columns. I'm also adding a couple of stickers from the Rose Paperie Co shop. I really love their stickers. They're beautiful. And now we're going on to my next spread. I'm going to make a genre spread over here. I'm using some washi tape that I got, I think from Temu. I don't know. It's an old tape. I don't remember where I got it. But I'm using some washi tape just to make a header there. And then from there, I am using stickers from Mushieworks and the Aastrae. I don't know if I'm saying that right. To make a header there. And then I put a little castle and a little candle. I'm then going in with my Tombow. This was an interesting color choice, I think. But I used the 027 color, the color in the little box. So basically the idea is I will color in the box and then put a name of a genre, like mystery, romance, young adult, in each box. And then I have a little label area next to the box where I will write in the book that I read that met that genre. So I'm just filling in the genres here, and then that will be the end of the spread. Thank you guys so much for watching this video with me. I really enjoy you coming along with me. I hope it gave you some good ideas. If you want to see more of what I do, I'm on Instagram. It is the same username as YouTube. It's just Bullet Journaling with Marianne with an underscore between each word. I hope you guys liked the video. Leave me a comment if you have anything you'd like to add. And I hope you guys have a really great day. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a really good one. Bye.